Why did you open our house to chaos again? All the dumbasses were gone!
Well, here it is, the first episode of Is It Worth Watching in 2023. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to this channel. I have a goal for the year 2023, and that is to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. I know that's a huge goal, but as my second grade teacher once told me, "Young nerd, remember to always shoot for the moon, for even if you miss, you shall land amongst the stars." Which, to be 100% honest, is terrible advice, because I'm gonna die from starvation or suffocation long before I land amongst the stars. Unless you count my corpse as me. Moving on. That 90s show is the successor to That 70s Show, a sitcom that aired in the early 90s to late 2000s. It's a show about a group of teenagers from Point Place, Wisconsin, and their groovy adventures. The show was one of my favorites when I was a kid, so hearing about this sequel has given me mixed emotions. On one hand, I'm fine with the way the series ended. On the other, I'm a 90s kid and I really appreciate 90s nostalgia. Also, I loved That 70s Show growing up. So I gave the first 3 episodes a shot, and this is how it went.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Episode 1 had a lot of nostalgia. They brought back Kitty, Red, Eric, and Donna, as well as Kelso and Jackie, I guess. Kelso and Jackie had the least amount of time, but I'll get back to that later. Overall, I felt that Kitty and Red were well written, even though Kitty was a bit weirder than I remember. Red, of course, was still a harsh bastard and easily the funniest character. Eric was written good, aside from the fact that he was a walking Star Wars reference.
Going great. I'm an adjunct professor now, which means I got a permanent parking space for my bicycle. That's what happens when your course is super popular, Dad.
The religion of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
This country's gonna lose the next war.
As Master Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try.
Master Yoda was a puppet from a fake world with some guy's hand up his butt.
I don't know, maybe the writers forgot that there was more to Eric than Star Wars memes. Donna got like 1 minute of screen time. She was horribly underused. The premise of the episode is that Eric and Donna are visiting the Foremans for the 4th of July. They also brought up their now teenage daughter. Her name is Leia. Honestly, I think that's genius. Of the new cast, I think she's probably written the best. She's witty like her parents and socially awkward like her father. We also meet the other new characters who aren't written as well. Gwen is basically female Hyde. Nate is just fat Kelso. Ozzy is gay Fez. Well, gayer Fez. Nikki is literally Jackie. And I almost forgot, Jay is Donna but with a penis. Unfortunately, since this episode has to balance so many characters, new and returning, we don't get to see much of any of them. Remember when I mentioned Kelso and Jackie? Well, they have one scene, and they don't even interact with Eric. The episode can be summed up as, Leia really enjoys hanging out with these kids from Point Place, so she manipulates a store owner to get a tap for a keg her friends found earlier in the episode. Then she asks to stay in Point Place for the summer. The whole keg conundrum is a throwback to Season 1, Episode 6 of That 70s Show. I do appreciate these nods. You know, despite my complaints, I found myself laughing quite a bit as the episode went on, so at least we do have some really good comedy going on here.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Episode 2 has the first circle scene, as well as the first zone out scene, for lack of a better name. Both of these happen within the first 10 minutes, and both of these are classic gags from That 70s Show. Unfortunately, the circle scene was middling at best, and the zone out scene was downright abysmal. For some reason, these showrunners thought that a CGI Donkey Kong animation would be a good gag. It's not. The reason the original gag works so well is the simplicity. It is to date the best visual representation for what it's like to be high, which is really hard to do because being high is not visual, it's a state of mind. Not that I would know. Furthermore, the animation is misrepresentative of gaming technology of the time.
Now, dance with me, you big gorilla.
Donkey Kong from the 90s did not look like this. Where is my faux 3D graphics? Come on, put some effort into this shit. Also, I should mention that they got 90s slang wrong throughout the first episode as well. I never knew a single person that used the word dope to describe something good until the mid-2000s. So it appears that when it comes to actual 90s nostalgia, the writers are a bit lacking. So the writers are all actually from that 70s show, which as far as I know, they were pretty good on the references to that. And maybe because they wrote for that 70s show, they actually don't know jack shit about the 90s. And maybe that's why we got some of this weird slang in this bad Donkey Kong. This episode is about Leia wanting to be cool for her cool new friends, so she hosts a movie night. Throughout the episode, we get a cameo from Leo. We also meet Gwen and Nate's mom, Sherry. She's dating Fez, but wants to leave him. It's a pretty basic episode about being yourself, I guess. There's also not a lot of character development for the new cast here. They seem to simply mold into the previous character tropes. So overall, the beginning of the episode was not great, but as the episode goes on, it still managed to make me laugh, so at least there's that. I feel like the writer should avoid attempting to improve the classic gags, because when they do that, it's just not funny. Also, the new cast of characters really is going to need some more characterization outside of the mold they already fit in. Because if they're not any different from the previous cast, why do we even have them?
Hello, Wisconsin!
Episode 3 is about Leia wanting her first kiss. So her, Gwen, and Ozzy resort to sexually assaulting men at the mall. I'm not even kidding. Also, there's this line.
I've given CPR to a dog. Does that count as a kiss?
White girls fuck dogs.
Despite this episode is probably the best of the first 3, as we finally get some more characterization for the new cast. It is unfortunately very cooker-cutty and still fits into the molds like I mentioned earlier, but at least it's something. We also get some background on what Fez has been doing since the series finale. He owns multiple barbershops and is apparently loaded. Sherry tries to break up with him but failed in the last episode, so she asks Kitty to do it. Kitty fails to do it, so they force Red to do it. I think the part that really actually mattered was the end. After failing to attract any dick havers, Leia attempts to kiss Jay, but it turns out Jay's actually deep, unlike his father. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to mention, Jay's dad is Kelso.
Who are you?
I'm Jay. Jay Kelso.
No. No way.
I think episode 3 is my favorite because it relies less on previous gags and nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, they still do, but it's slightly less noticeable than the first 2. But the episode overall is still mediocre. In the end, I'd have to say that 90s show is okay. The use of nostalgia is usually handled well, at least when it's not trying to top the original or relying on it too much. My biggest fear for the series going forward is that none of these new characters will be distinct from the old cast. Unfortunately, some of them are still fitting in the mold too well. I'm hoping this would change as the season progresses. If I were to compare this to that 70s show, I'd say it's a very mediocre spin-off. I am aware that it is unfair to compare the two, but I can and I am. So, is it worth watching? I feel like fans of the original series will probably at least appreciate previous cast cameos. Newcomers, on the other hand, will probably get a kick out of it too, just to a lesser extent. When it comes to that 90s show, I don't think that it lives up to that 70s show. Yes, I've only watched the first 3 episodes, and yes, that 70s show has 8 seasons of comedic masterpiece, but at least 6 seasons, because I think the last 2 seasons were kind of mid. But you know, we got 6 seasons at the very least of really good comedy, and we got 10 episodes of that 90s show, and I only watched 3 of them. But yeah, is it worth watching? Isn't about watching the whole series. It's a first impression, and my first impressions are middling. Also, one more thing before I let you go. I find it incredibly unrealistic that Leia would want to stay in Wisconsin. As a Wisconsinite, I can confirm that this place is horrible. It is not fun to be in, and I hate it here. Please help me leave. I'm not even kidding.